Perfect. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Greater Napanee Committee of Adjustment for the 10th of January, 2023. I just want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Town of Greater Napanee YouTube channel. So without further ado, we'll call the meeting to order. I'll look for a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Councillor Norrie. Councillor Hicks. Questions, comments, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Number 3, which is a disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Do we have anybody with a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll look for an adoption of the minutes. The recommendation is the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment dated December 20th, 2022 be received and adopted. So motion, Councillor Martin, Deputy Mayor Calver. Comments, questions, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And right into the land severance application. Land severance application PLCOR 2021-091 LMB McCutcheon 385 Salmon River Road. Legal description, part lot 16, concession 7, Richmond Township. I believe we do have somebody here speaking for it. Bill, you're here to speak to this, are you?
Yes.
And seeing no one else in the chambers, I don't see anybody speaking against. We'll get to you right shortly though, Bill. Okay. So we'll look for a motion. We have a recommendation that upon further request of the applicant, the committee consider removing the previously imposed condition number 2 on the provisional consent approval regarding the installation of a well on the lot to be created. And further, that if the committee deems it appropriate to amend the conditions, that the committee consider whether such change should be deemed minor in accordance with section 53 sub 26 of the Planning Act. So we'll look for a motion to put that on the floor. We'll have some discussion and then we'll go from there. Councillor Shank, Councillor Norrie, great. And I guess Mike, you're up. We'll start with you.
Thank you, Worship. So this was a consent application from 2021 where provisional approval was granted, and one of the conditions was for the installation of a well on the property. I should note that the town currently has a policy on the books where there's a creation of a new lot in excess of 5 acres. The policy was that no well would be required for a new residential lot. At the time of this application, when staff were performing the review, it looked as though both of the lots would be under that threshold. However, it has been determined that after completion of the survey of the lots to be created, both are slightly exceeding 5 acres. So the applicant has requested that the committee consider removing that condition to require the installation of a well. This came before the committee, the previous committee, in November of 2022 with the same request, and the minutes are included on the agenda for council's information as well. The decision out of that meeting was that the well conditions be upheld and that they remain in effect, and that the applicant be required to install a well to ensure there is adequate water quality and quantity to service those lots to be created. However, the applicant has requested that the committee reconsider that, and I believe has some comments that they would like to make. Staff would note that at a staff level, we have concern over that 5 acre threshold. For context, our zoning bylaw requires that a new lot that can be used for other than residential purposes shall be a minimum size of 10 acres. So staff would be, supportive of taking that 5 acre threshold and elevating it to the 10 acres. We would bring it in line with our zoning requirements for non-residential uses on new lots being created. But at the time of this application, the 5 acre policy was in effect, is still in effect effectively. So just wanted to bring that up for council's consideration. We are aware of groundwater concerns in the area. So these are the sort of things that we would like the committee to consider in this request of the applicant. But that's it for me. If you wanted to have some discussion, we can, or if you wish, you can invite the applicant up to speak.
Yep, great. Thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any questions or comments with respect to the information that Mike's provided us, or the information that's actually in the agenda?
Well,
Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Mike, you said you have concerns about groundwater in there? Or you don't have?
Through your worship, the area in question, it's in an area of sensitive groundwater. So there's likely good groundwater on those lots. It's just staff's recommendation would be that the well conditions continue to be imposed to ensure that future purchasers of that lot, they have the confidence that there is good groundwater there and that they can develop the lot for residential use.
Thanks.
For your worship.
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calvin.
So Michael, is there something we could put in new to this rule here, where maybe, the severance can get put through with a condition that they cannot be sold, the lots cannot be sold without a well? Is there something that can be imposed there? Or like, I understand the need of the water, the wells, to make sure there's adequate water to support a residential dwelling, but maybe these lots, are they ever going to be used for residential dwelling, or are they just, what are they,
Through your worship, since the lots that are provisionally approved are under that 10-acre threshold, they can really only be used for residential use. So that's the concern of staff. We could potentially do a development agreement where a future purchaser is alerted that there is no well on the lot and that there shall be a well installed prior to application for a building permit. It'd be a transfer of risk to a potential future purchaser. That's the concern of staff there.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, through your worship, Michael. The only issue I think that we would ever have with putting on any of a condition of like that is that we do have a resolution on the books that 5 acres and above can be severed without a well. So we're kind of in a little bit of a conflict right now until we can get to when our official plan is redone, correct?
Through your worship, that is correct. There is a resolution on the books that states for lots being created in excess of 5 acres, there is no requirement for the installation of a well. That is correct. We don't need to wait until the official plan is updated. A new resolution can be passed to modify that threshold. One just has not been passed at this time.
Can I just have a follow-up?
Yep, go ahead.
If we were going to do that, what kind of notification would we have to give to the public for this, that we're changing that threshold?
Through your worship, since it's not it's not an amendment to an existing bylaw, it's a policy. We wouldn't need to do any public notification. It would likely be advisable that we did something just to alert the public, but we would not be required by any legislation to do so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions of Michael? Go ahead, Councillor Shank. Yeah.
I'd just like to hear from the proponent that why, first, before I have any further discussion, because I wasn't on council at the time, but was 4 acres. Now it is 5 acres. The optics is, it looks like it's circumventing and putting a well in, you know what I mean? So I'd just like to hear the other side first before any decision is made.
Absolutely. Yeah. If there's no more questions of Michael, and we can always revisit Michael afterwards, but we'll bring the applicant up. Come on up, Bill. We'll get you just to identify yourself. I think we all know who you are, but just for the folks that are watching on the YouTube channel there. So.
Okay, so I'm Bill McCutcheon. Thank you very much for letting me attend the meeting here tonight. My wife is going to be with me, and last minute her mom had end up going to the hospital, so she's there with her right now. So just that stopped her from being here. I just wrote something down quickly so I kind of stay on track, but I will make a comment on water in the area. I have drilled 4 wells in the last 10 years within 1,000 feet of those properties, and all the wells are over 10 gallons a minute. So there's no concern in that immediate area for water quality or the abundance of it. Anyway, so I'm Bill McCutcheon here on behalf of my wife and I. I've lived in the greater Napanee area my whole life, and I've been an active real estate agent, broker, and real estate appraiser in the greater Napanee area since 1981. During my real estate career, I've assisted many people in the process of filling out severance applications and listing and selling many of those lots. those severed lots. In the course of my job, I'm in contact with the planning department many times each year, and thereby I am very aware of the policies in place containing obtaining a severance approval. The current policy in place has been for any severance over 5 acres, a well was not one of the conditions. When my wife and I decided in 2001 that we wanted to sever 2 lots off our property, I wanted to be sure that the 5-acre policy was still in place. Therefore, I went to the town planning office and spoke with Jean Rickson and asked her to confirm that information. I was informed that the current policy was not changed and that any lot severance over 5 acres, a well was not required as a condition. Therefore, on December 9th, 2021, we submitted our applications for 2 severances for 5-acre lots. We did not know what the exact size of each lot would be, as they're irregular in shape, and thereby stated on the application that they would be at least 5 acres. On January 25th, 2022, the severance applications were approved, but a condition was inserted stating that we had to put wells on the lots. Upon learning this, I called Jean Rickson, who in turn asked me to call Michael to speak to him regarding why this condition was inserted. Michael told me that the concern of the committee was the fact that my application had said 5 acres exactly, and the fear from the committee was that the lots may in fact be less than 5 acres or just exactly 5 acres. So at that time I asked him what we needed to do, and he said that the lots had to be a minimum of at least 5.1 acres or larger. And if they were, we could, if we could ensure that, we could come back to the committee and ask them to remove that condition of the well from the application. So in order to prove that the lots were in fact over 5 acres inside, we had to proceed to get the surveying done, which took a significant amount of time, which is why we didn't get back till November to appeal this. The survey confirmed that the lots were in fact, one was 5.13 acres and the other one was 5.47 acres. When we brought this updated information to the committee meeting on November the 8th, 2022, we did not even come to the meeting, as I thought it was a no-brainer that now that we were in compliance with the policy, there would be no objection. However, the committee turned down that request and still asked for the wells to be installed. We really didn't understand why that had happened. The current resolution regarding this issue, number 268/17, covers the fact that severances over 5 acres do not require a well. Therefore, since we started the severance application under that policy, and since we were informed by the town staff that the policy was for any lot over 5 acres did not require a well, we are requesting that the committee reconsider and remove those conditions from our application.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Do we have any questions for Bill? Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Fidel.
Through your worship, Bill, just for clarification, I think that I heard you said you started the application 2001.
21.
Yeah, could you just verify it's 21?
Yeah, so September, sorry. We brought it into the town, I think it was December 9th, 2021.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Yeah, go ahead, Deputy
So
Mayor
Bill, you
Fidel.
said you've drilled 4 wells in how many years within 1,000 feet of that area?
So in the past 10 years, we've drilled 4 wells within that 1,000 feet of these lots. Because we've had other severance application on different properties, and they've all been over 10 gallons a minute.
And what kind of quality water or water quality was there?
Excellent. They're all good. Yeah. We have no systems on, well, hard water, but that's all.
Yeah.
No sulfur and nothing like that.
How deep are the wells out there roughly?
They're all between 40 and 60 feet.
So good depth then. Yeah.
Any other questions? I just have one, Bill. What is the purpose of severing these lots? Are they going to be resold for residential lots? Are they going to be, are you hanging on to them for any other reason, or what's the
Yeah,
purpose?
so our intention, and life may change, but our intention is we decided to sever the lots and not to sell them because we still use the property. And we're planning at some point, again, unless life changes, we'll probably end up giving them to our kids or most likely to our grandchildren. We have 2 granddaughters and we thought we'd like to give them something. And we kind of thought that's what we'd end up doing with the wells, with the lots.
Okay.
At
great.
some point, like they're only 12 and 8 right now, so they're not going to use them for a long time.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. And having sat on the last committee of adjustment, and I know where we were thinking at the time was the concern of having lots that didn't have wells on them, and then the reselling of those lots, and the concern that, I mean, we all know in the rural areas these days that there are concerns with water, and as we keep moving out into the rural area, we as a council were very concerned about whether some of these lots had waters. And that's why I think you'll probably see as we transition through the last term of council, we started asking for hydrological reports as well, just to ensure that lots that were being severed and had wells on them weren't going to affect the neighboring properties, because I mean, there's only so much water under the ground, and if it's being dispersed one way or another, it's kind of just to ensure that when the lots are severed, that they did have good potable water that was going to be available when they were sold. So that's, I think, in a nutshell, kind of the thinking of the previous council. So is there any comments or questions that come out of that? Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
Maybe I'm the different person, but policy is anything. 5 acres is a large lot. I remember when the lots used to be severed and they were half acres, but now we're up to 5 acres. And with the technology today, I know numerous people along Highway 33 that have trickle to a holding tank because they don't have the 3.7 gallons per minute. It's over the 5 acres, as Mike has told them to do, is to go ahead, and what Gene Rickson has said, to go ahead to come back. I'm in favor of removing the option because it is over the 5 acres. Anybody that's going to buy the lot is going to go ahead and it's conditional that there's potable water on that property. Anybody that's going to go ahead and anybody that's going to buy a lot is going to go ahead and say, you're going to have to prove that I'm not going to buy a lot and then find out that there's no water on it. So therefore, is this a cost up front now to the landowner, or is this a cost to that he's going to go ahead and move to a possible buyer later on? Is the municipality held legally liable if there's no water on it? So can I ask Mike that?
Yeah, go ahead.
We don't we say, yes, it's over the 5 acres. Yeah, not a problem. Then all of a sudden they don't have any water on it. And the buyer that buys a lot goes ahead and say, you know, I bought a lot. Why did you give them the severance? Are we going to get our hands wrapped for that?
Through your worship, that's a possibility. Yeah, it's always a possibility that somebody could come back to us and say, well, why would you create a lot to permit development that can't be serviced ultimately, right? So that's a concern of staff.
Where's the other side?
Yeah, there always is two sides to it, right? So,
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Mark.
I think with Bill, basically giving them to family members, and even if they are, like Mike said, if they are sold someday, whatever, if things change, somebody's going to drill a well or blast a well or whatever before they ever build a house to find out what the well situation is going to be. So, and all Bill is really doing is delaying the expense of the well. If you're going to give something away, why would you want to spend 20 grand or whatever to do a well? I can kind of see that. So I'd be in favor of getting rid of the condition myself, but that's.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councilor Martin. And as you were saying that, it jumps at me that, and this question for Michael is there any risk of setting any type of precedent for future severances with respect to something like this? Or is this, this is sort of a one?
Your worship, I would say there would be some precedent set, yes, in that the committee would be willing to revisit and remove conditions, right? So that component is certainly precedent setting. With regard to the creation, or with regards to the installation of a well specifically, I can't think of any lots that we have on the books that are provisionally approved that are right around that 5 acre mark. They're all significantly less, and it's very obvious that they need to be having wells installed. But then again, yes, there would be a precedent in that the committee is, open to reconsidering their conditions and possibly removing them if so requested.
Okay, great, thank you. Was there anything that came out of that? Go ahead, Councillor Shank, or Councillor Hicks, and then Councillor Shank. Go ahead.
So is it a question of consistency? So what you do for one, so Mr. McCutcheon, and I understand you wanting to give the lots to family. We have similar situation in our own family. But 3 months from now, someone else comes in with a 5.2 and a 5.4, and we tell them, no, you have to have a well, because that's what the policy is. And they say, Mr. McCutcheon didn't have to have a well, and these individuals are looking to sell for profit immediately. They want to sell the lot, transfer the risk to the buyer, and even possibly transfer the risk back to the municipality because we didn't stay true to our policy. So I'm just wondering if we're all going to be happy with setting a precedent that can be. Sure,
go ahead.
please.
The policy isn't that though now.
Okay,
So if you want to change the policy, that's fine. You can say to the next people, well, our policy's been amended and this is our new policy. But it's not that policy today. It's 5 acres. So you would have, no one can come back to you and say, the problem is I can say, you're not following the policy.
see, okay, understood.
And I will make a comment about the well. As a real estate agent, I know very well that if I ever decide to sell those lots, I'm going to have to put a well on them to sell them, because someone going to buy it without a well is going to discount it deeply.
Oh, yeah.
So it's only common sense that I would put a well on it someday if I went to sell it. But if we're going to give it to our grandchildren, even then, we're probably going to put a well on it for our grandchildren. We don't want to give them a property that's no good to them, if you understand what I'm saying. But if I did intend to sell it, I'd put a well on them. It wouldn't make any sense not to at that time, to prove that they were a good property, had a good well.
Hey, Councillor Shank.
Yeah. The reason why I'm more to agree with removing the conditions that were put in place was, you're on Salmon River, right? Are you allowed to put a shore well line in there?
These lots aren't.
No. So the only reason why I'm saying that is because I've seen in the past, because we're surrounded by water in the south, is that somebody creates a lot and, oh, you have to drill a well. And we're going, in our neck of the woods, you could have a guy right beside you and have all great water. And then this side, you have salt or sulfur. So, and you have the lake right there. So we get the permit and we go ahead and put a shore well in, and you never have a problem with water ever again, unless Lake Ontario goes dry. So that's the reason why I agree with what Bill's saying, that, if somebody's going to buy that lot, he's going to go ahead and require that the potable water is going to be there anyway. So that's
Okay, is there any other conversations or questions?
Yeah, go ahead. One for Michael. So you're saying, Michael, that we are going to make a change up to 10 acres. Is that correct on this? You're talking about a 10-acre change there.
That's the intention. Yes, is that staff would come back to council. It's a council policy. Staff. We increase that. So bring it in line with our rules for residential. We better align with existing bylaws.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. I just want to say that June of 2017, a resolution 26817 was created. That is the resolution that we're going by right now. until we change that threshold, we have, I believe that we have no choice but to honor the request because of this resolution.
Yep, thank you. Anything else? Seeing nothing, and gentlemen, you have anything else? No? We have a motion on the floor that suggests that if the committee deems it appropriate to amend the conditions, that the committee consider whether such change should be deemed minor in accordance with section 53, subsection 26 of the Planning Act. And I'll look to our Madam Clerk with respect to this. I think we would be further ahead to resolve this resolution and then entertain a resolution with respect to making a decision, because I think Mr. McCutcheon is looking for a decision tonight.
Through your worship, that is correct. The current motion on the floor is just to entertain the consideration. It has been moved in second. I don't believe it's been voted on yet, but that's all it is. Once that is passed, if the committee wants to make a decision, you'll need to make a second resolution, either to say, yes, you agree, and if you do, is it a minor change, yes or no? Or no, you don't agree and you want to uphold the condition for the well. As far as the minor change, that is entirely at the discretion of the committee based on your judgment as to whether this substantially impacts any of the people who would have received a notice the first time this application came forward.
Okay, so I think having heard that, maybe what we'll do is we'll call the question, we'll have a vote on this, and then we will entertain. We have a number of options here. Obviously, one of the options is to make the conditions on there to go away. Part of that option is this a minor variance or is it not? And then, of course, the third option is to simply stick with what we have and move forward. So I think we'll call the vote now with respect to the motion that's on the floor, and then we'll entertain a resolution or a motion with respect to how we want to resolve this. Sound fair? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So now what we'll do is I think we will entertain a motion from someone, and we'll see where we go with it with respect to our options. So we do have some options here, and I can read some of the options out. And if we're looking for, but we'll look for a motion on that. So anybody want to?
I'll move that motion that it deemed to be minor, and that the condition of the well being on it because it exceeds the 5 acre size be granted. Removed, you know what I mean? But
So you're suggesting that the change be deemed as a minor variance, or do you want to just remove the conditions?
according to Jessica, we were supposed to deem it to be minor first.
It's all in the same one. If it's minor, we just don't do any further public notice and it's decided tonight and you don't have to wait 20 days. That's the difference. So that's the 1A on that sheet of options.
I guess I guess, again, my concern is we deem it as a minor variance. Future endeavors may also want to deem this as a minor variance, as opposed to, should we just be looking at making the conditions go away? And if we do it that way, where do we go from there, Michael?
Here we go. Yes, your worship. So I would recommend that the committee consider this not minor. Really, this is a fairly substantial change. I will note that there were no members of the public that provided comment on this, so nobody requested to be notified of the decision or any changes to conditions. So really, there's no risk to the applicant in that case if the committee does not deem it minor. For example, if this were a very contentious application and there were a lot of public input and individuals wanted notice of the decision and notice of any changes of conditions, if such change were not deemed minor in that instance, then it would open up the chance for appeal and further delay. But in this instance, it is a substantial change. I would recommend that it not be deemed minor, but knowing that there's no risk, there's no additional risk to the applicant. It's just an additional 20 days, but it's not setting a precedent for this type of decision.
Great. Does that help?
comment?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Mike.
The only reason I have a comment is that for years, if you made a lot over 5 acres, you didn't have to put a well in. All right. Bill went ahead, created a lot. It was over 5 acres. He went to the planning department. They went ahead and said, yeah, you created over a lot, 5 acres. The previous council says, no. Oh, by the way, we want you to put a well on. That's totally against what all the other policies been doing for I don't know how many years. Now, so all he's asking is saying, guys, come on, you can't have it both ways, review it. All right, reconsider it. So until we make that policy change, you're kind of stuck here as far as I'm concerned. So that's the reason why, if you want it to be another 20 days and it's not to be minor, so we're okay on our end. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as you lift that, the condition 2 of those, of the wells, all right, then I don't have a problem. How you want to word it, Jessica, that's totally up to you.
You made the motion, so
All right, but it's
It is
not
up to
minor,
you.
it's major now. All right, so I have to change that.
I
So you have to
tell
wait
you
another
what,
20
maybe I
days.
can help you out with respect to a motion.
Yeah, sure.
That maybe what we could consider, and I'll look for somebody to move and second it, that upon further request of the applicant regarding land severance application PLCOR 2021-091, the committee approved the request to remove the previously imposed condition number 2 on the provisional consent approval regarding the installation of a well on the lot to be created, as it has now been demonstrated that the lot to be created will exceed 5 acres in size, and further that the committee direct notice of the decision be circulated, as the committee does not deem such change as minor in accordance to section 53 sub 26 of the Planning Act.
So moved.
Moved
1B.
moved by Counselor Shank, seconded by Counselor Hicks. Are there any comments or questions? Absolutely. Go ahead. We will do it the second lot. We will need 2 motions, and we have a pretty good understanding as to where maybe the second one might go, Bill. So all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now we will deal with 5.2 land severance application PLCOR 2021-092 LMB McCutcheon 385 Salmon River Road, legal description, part lot 16, concession 7, Richmond Township. I will suggest that the staff recommendation, or at least a recommendation with respect to a motion, be that upon further request of the applicant regarding the land severance application PLCOR 2021-092, the committee approved the request to remove the previously imposed condition number 2 on the provisional consent approval regarding the installation of a well on the lot to be created, as it has now been demonstrated that the lot to be created will exceed 5 acres in size, and further that the committee direct notice of the decision be circulated, as the committee does not deem such change as minor in accordance with section 53 sub 26 of the Planning Act. I'll look for someone to move that. Counselor Nori, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we'll move on. Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Calvert, Counselor Martin, comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion has been carried. Thank you, folks, for the Committee of Adjustment. We'll move on to the regular session of council here shortly. Thank you.